The chair will entertain a motion to suspend the rules to move Bill 21 and Bill 23 to the front of the agenda with a limited courtesy of the floor on Bill 21 and 23, so we could have any comments. If then City Council would move on those two bills, and then I would move right back into old business and the regular agenda. Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Ms. Dolan makes the motion. Is there a second? Mr. Reynolds, second. Under suspension, there's no discussion. Please call the roll on the motion.
Mrs. Polinsky.
Aye.
Mr. DiGiuseppe.
Aye.
Ms. Dolan.
Aye.
Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mr. Donchez.
Aye. We will move for final passage to Bill 21.
An ordinance of the City of Bethlehem.
Yeah. Courtesy of the floor on Bill 21 and 23. Will anyone like to address council on Bills 21 and 23? Since we just made a motion to suspend the rules, and I would ask Mr. Haynes. And again, for those who just came in, the motion that was just approved to suspend the rules was made. So two members of council could go to the memorial service for Bob Thompson that begins in 20 minutes, and to try to see if we could get two important ordinances approved. Mr. Haynes.
Bruce Haynes, 65 West Market Street. I'm here to address Bill number 21, which is the ice rink repairs. As a follow-up to the last meeting, when an amendment to this Bill 21 was presented by Mr. DiGiuseppe, and that amendment was not supported by 4 members of City Council, much to the dismay of those of us on Main Street and the businesses and other entities that are part of Main Street, which is our cherished heritage here in the city. And for those of you who aren't aware that there's continues to be a shortage of parking, a parking problem in that area. And in addition, there is a drainage issue. And Mr. Alcohol at the last meeting outlined basically that the parking to enact 27 additional spots would be about $50,000, and to fix the drainage would be about $100,000. So there's about a $150,000 issue that remains out there. The administration has essentially established a parking Main Street versus ice rink. One or the other, as opposed to trying to do both. And I think what Mr. DiGiuseppe proposed at the last meeting established the opportunity to do both, with the $60,000 held back from the ice rink and only $240 going to the ice rink. And in combination with the CDBG, which potentially can be used for this project, would give us $135 towards the $150,000. It would solve the Main Street issue, hopefully even increase the view to our visitors that come to town. For those of you who may not be aware, our tourism is down 5.5%. Hotel occupancy is down 5.5% year to date this year versus last year, despite the introduction of the casino. So we still need to present ourselves in the best way possible. And if you haven't walked down to South Main Street and looked at the condition of no grass over on the side by the smithy, on that side of the street, as a result of the drainage issues. If you haven't looked at the broken macadam down in front of the smithy, I mean, we don't look pretty to the outside world, and this is our heritage, Main Street. So the administration is elected to abandon Main Street in this project and put all the money into the ice rink, with no proposal going forward to take care of Main Street. And by your support of that last week, you also essentially voted to abandon Main Street. And I think that that's a travesty for Main Street. I think both projects can be done. The $60,000 that you didn't approve last week is less than 10% of the budget of the ice rink. I'm sure somewhere in that budget for the ice rink, some items, some fluff could be left out to provide the ability to leave money to complete both projects. So I implore you tonight to not pass the amendment as the proposal number 21 is proposed by the city administration, but to perhaps reintroduce leaving $60,000, Mr. DiGiacinto's proposal from last week. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Still Stephen in town. On previous two meetings, I suggested an alternative plan as to looking on the opposite side of the street in terms of efficacy of putting parking spots there. I noticed some positive responses by nodding from you people, and also I received a call from a member of the council that this could be a viable alternative. So the question is, has council as a group or the person, whoever might be interested, looking at this as a viable alternative to what was proposed and reopen the issue as Mr. Haynes proposed?
Thank you. Any other comment on Bill 21 or 23 under the special courtesy of the floor? If not, I'm going to ask the clerk then to Bill 21, amending the non-utility capital budget, ice rink repairs, park and playground improvements. Please read it.
On final reading, an ordinance of the City of Bethlehem, Counties of Lehigh and Northampton, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending the 2010 capital budget for non-utilities, sponsored by Eric Evans and David DiGiacinto.
Thank you. Comments, Mrs. Belinsky or Mr. DiGiacinto first?
Well, again, I still feel strongly that we should be considering at least, not knowing what the exact number for the ice rink will be at this point, and I know Mr. Karp is trying to get some bids in as soon as possible, but he does have some limitations to the timing on that, and I do feel very strongly about leaving some money back, other than the CDBG funds for the Main Street parking, specifically the $60,000 that I'd asked for last week.
Mrs. Belinsky, I understand you have an amendment.
I would second.
Well, you have to make. You would have to move for the amendment.
I will move for the amendment.
Could you, Cindy? Do you have a copy of the amendment? Would you read that, please? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. DiGiacinto seconds the amendment. Please read the amendment.
The amendment is that the following allocation in section 2, which reads as follows: the park and playground improvements going from $313,390 to $333,390, and the ice rink renovations of $200,000, with the revenue source of recreation facilities fund of $220,000, shall be amended to read that the recreation facilities funds remains as the revenue source at the stated amount of $220,000. The allocation for the parks and playground improvements remains at $333,390. The ice rink renovations would be changed to $140,000 instead of $200,000. And unprogrammed funds would go from $0 to $60,000.
That's the amendment. I would ask the clerk to call the roll on the amendment, please. Then, if it passes, then we would have discussion.
Okay.
Correct?
We have a discussion on the amendment now as well.
I'll take discussion on the amendment now.
I'm going to say that I'm going to vote no on this, simply because I just think that we can move money. We do it all the time, and right now, because we're in the bidding process, it's really important that we have a strong, bid package. And one of the things that makes it strong for the Ice House is City Council's, solid approval. And if it goes down, even if we then, pass it again, it's not as strong. So if we want to get the best bids, if we want to get, competitive bids, we need to pass this. And I've read Mike Alcohol's memo in response to Councilman Dave DiGiacinto, and the city is moving forward. I don't know why this is such a big secret or something, but the city is moving forward on getting more parking on Main Street. We're moving forward with PennDOT concerning the bridge, And it might not be feasible to add those 4 spots by Market Street. It just might not work, but we're looking at it. And you're seeking funds. The city really wants to do the drainage project. It's not that the city doesn't want to do it. The city really wants to do it. They know that that's a really important gateway. So I have confidence that this is going to move forward because it has to. It's another one that has to. So I think we'll be hearing about it down the road. Right now, we need to support the ice rink.
Any other comments from council? Mr. Evans, I'll come to Mr. Reynolds, Mr. DiGiacinto. No, good.
I just wanted a clarification that a no vote on this amendment is in favor of keeping the money, of keeping the current,
A vote of no would defeat the amendment.
to move the money away from the ice rink. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Evans?
The vote that went through the last meeting, I don't know the exact date, the last meeting that we took the first read on this, moved the transfer of 540, another transfer of 220. That is there, now waiting for the bids. And my concern now is, it's been moved there, but we made that first decision, and we're making the second vote tonight. But it's moved there, waiting for bids that we still have not received yet. Mr. Clark, could I ask you, we're still, just for the record, nothing has been finalized on that? Okay. So it's there, it's waiting to see what, I'm hoping, I'm confident it's going to come under this, the way everything's happening, the economy, the construction bids are coming, that's going to come in lower, and that there should be money. I do think that we need to keep Main Street parking as a high priority. I know that EMS coming into this past year, 3 of the projects I was really high on my mind was the EMS building, the ice rink, and the parking. I would like to, hopefully we can complete all 3. The EMS is in the bid package we'll be talking about in a couple minutes. The rink is here, and the parking, something else I think we need to find a way to get done, whether it's through CDBG funds, whether it's something we find another way to transfer funds from, or a place to transfer funds from. But in the end, I think we need to wait and see what the numbers come back before moving funds one way, then moving back and pulling some funds back into program. I think this confuses it. I would really just rather keep it where it is now until the numbers come out. And when are they expected, Mr. Clark? Do you have a timeline of the 20? It's going to be it will not be back by our next meeting. I don't believe so.
Mr. Maury, I'll come down. Mr. Maury.
The intent of this, as far as I'm concerned, is to help both, to help the downtown Bethlehem in the parking, and also to make sure the ice house makes, or the ice rink makes it as well. That's the intent.
Thank you, Mr. DiGiacinto.
Yeah, I just want to recall that the last meeting, we moved money around, I think 3 different ways to get money, about 540 grand into ice rink repairs without any bids. We found it ourselves to do it last meeting, and quite frankly, I'm not sure where the money, whether it's sitting in ice rink or wherever it's sitting, matters to the guests getting a bid process. I don't think it affects the bid process at all. So I'm not sure where this money is at or where it needs to be, and I don't think it affects the bid process. So that's my feeling on that.
I got the information from Dennis, and I think the mayor both said that having a city council approval strengthens your bid package. That was just set out in the hallway. So
you have to have the money allocated in order to sign a contract. That's correct.
Any other comments by council?
no, I think we should just move forward to the amendment to.
Please call the roll on the amendment.
We're voting on the
And a
amendment.
vote of aye supports the amendment. A vote of nay opposes the amendment.
Mrs. Polinsky? Aye. Mr. DiGiacinto?
Aye.
Ms. Dolan?
No, nay.
Mr. Evans?
Nay.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Nay.
Mr. Donches?
Aye.
4-3 passes.
Please, I ask the clerk to call the roll.